So James Harden, Joel Embiid out of the way. Now we have to talk about the most fascinating player on the Sixers roster, clearly. Year 3, Tyrese Maxey. Can we reasonably expect him to make another leap? He was so good last year before the James Harden trade, and then his role gets streamlined, and he's just like absolutely like the same level of lethal, just thrived in. I don't even know how to describe it. It's streamlined because it wasn't an easier role, it wasn't a smaller role, but just off these threes that were being generated for him from Harden, and then just the catch and go decisions that he was making. So we know he's a great fit for this team. Is there a way for him to level up within it though? Or does playing alongside Embiid and Harden sort of artificially repress his ceiling? Or is it the fact that he might be coached by Doc Rivers and not get enough time running his own unit?
Sure. I mean, that is a concern. No, I think everyone around the team, like the team itself, and then like, when you talk to the coaching staff and the front office, like everyone just raves about Tyrese Maxey. Like I swear he is the favorite son among all Sixers players. So I think because he has this just ridiculous work ethic, I'm not betting against another leap. We've seen, again, it's like off season. I don't know how much you want to read into like workout footage, but
yeah, everyone has gained 10 pounds of muscle while losing 10% body fat or getting below 10% body fat, whatever.
Right. I mean, he does look like he put on some muscle, so we'll see there. But I think, especially after Harden came over, he really started to try to add that step back three to his bag. And it wouldn't shock me if he is a better step back 3-point shooter than James Harden this coming season. And so I think that's going to be, can he be a off the dribble 3-level scorer? Because if he can, that's going to give them, 3 options that might push a defense past its breaking point. Like you can't double Embiid and Harden and then also have Maxey to worry about. So I don't know. It's just so hard to rationally evaluate him because he took such a big leap from year 1 to year 2. And, like he came up briefly in Kevin Durant discussions this offseason when the Sixers, were mentioned for 3 days. And there are people in Philly that wouldn't trade Tyrese Maxey. This happens with every fan base, and clearly it happened with a lot of teams this offseason with Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, but that's how high people in Philly feel about Maxey as well.
I ranked him leading into the offseason in terms of trade assets, players that I thought could be available, where I thought, to frame it, I thought the Sixers were way more likely to put Tyrese Maxey on the table in a trade than I thought the Raptors were with Scotty Barnes or the Cavs with Mobley. So they didn't factor into that discussion. I had Tyrese Maxey ranked as the single most valuable trade asset in the NBA. You might have been the one that edit that article because that jump he made, and if you don't buy into the 3-level finishing from last year where he went from 31% on threes to 44, and he goes from sub 59% at the rim to 63. I bought into it after watching it. And the hardest part of his role is now behind him, unless James Harden just absolutely sucks or someone gets injured on this team, because you were the number 2 guy before he got there. So I'm all in on Tyrese Maxey. And I'm just hoping we get to see, and we have to, because we saw it even after the trade. I think where he could maybe make the biggest leap is, one, maybe you're just reinforcing everything you did last year, but is what do those lineups, can he actually be the one that buys you time if you want to rest Joel Embiid and James Harden together? How much time can he buy you in those stretches? And then he should certainly be on the court a bunch when James Harden is off it. He is just when we're talking about a 3-level scorer and someone who I think improved a lot as a passer, when you're looking at the scale of his decision-making, they're sometimes a little bit harder to fit in where they have to be lead this heliocentric existence. And he just very much does not have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated to see what he looks like. Cause coming in to the NBA, he didn't shoot well during his lone year at Kentucky. Doesn't play a ton as a rookie, but didn't shoot well and shot on relatively low volume from 3 in that first season. last year he shoots 42.7 from three on only 4.1 attempts per game. So not like we're not talking stuff, but like the entire year I'm just waiting for the regression to hit, and it never did. And now the question is like, was that just an outlier season, or is he just really that good of a shooter and we got blinded by a year or two of bad shooting in college and then this first year in his pros? So I think it's probably like I lean more toward he is a good shooter, and that's what the Sixers were betting on when they drafted him. I remember Morey during his like right after the draft was saying like, you go back and look at high school, we believe in his mechanics. We just think it was one bad year. And again, like this is where his ridiculous work ethic comes into play. Like I have faith in him really adding to his game every offseason in particular. So I am ready for Tyrese Maxey. The one bummer is that, especially in the wake of this Donovan Mitchell trade, I was thinking like the East is just so loaded at guard that it wouldn't shock me if he plays at an all-star caliber level, but I just don't think there's a window for him to actually make the all-star team. But with that said, like I wouldn't be shocked if we're having him in the conversation as some of the best young guards in the league, like right with a Cade Cunningham or a LaMelo Ball or a Tyrese Halliburton.
I think he is like his ceiling is just, I think it's, and looking at like some of the effort he puts in specifically defensively too on the ball, I just feel like he's someone as of right now, his ceiling, I'm not saying at this moment, his best case outcome is better than Donovan Mitchell is right now. It's better than, maybe even Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know there's the size difference when you're looking at Shai versus Maxey. And I'm not saying he'll be better than them right away, but it's not unrealistic to think, well, I believe Tyrese Maxey in 3 years or whatever is going to be better than Donovan Mitchell is right now. And that's not me shitting on Donovan Mitchell, who's a fantastic player. That's how high I am on Maxey. And I will say, do you know what I bet you do, what he shot from three after the James Harden trade?
It was a buy-it, right?
It was what?
Above 45%?
46.2% on 5.1 attempts per game. That doesn't happen on accident. I'm sorry.
You just endeared yourself to all of Philadelphia, by the way, by putting him above Donovan Mitchell in particular. Thank you for that.
I mean, it's like yes, Donovan Mitchell right now I'm still inclined to go with when you look at his off-the-dribble scoring, but we're talking about Scotty Barnes in terms of a future superstar and Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham, and rightfully so. I don't actually think he ends up being better than any of those guys, but is it just because Embiid and Harden are here that we're afraid to talk about like Maxey is? No, I don't think he's worth Kevin Durant on his own. And if you're giving up a trade offer for a current superstar, the Sixers don't have the other assets to attach to him. But like, this is a blue chip cornerstone prospect and based off what we saw last season. And so unless he's just going to completely implode this year, I just don't know why we're not nationally talking about him in that vein more.
Yeah, I think it's the draft pedigree. And then like the question of, is this an outlier year? But if he has another year like he did last year, I think he will force his way into those conversations. And yeah, I mean, it speaks to, I just wrote a piece at Liberty Ballers today about like, the Sixers are not going to have much flexibility really for the rest of the decade. They owe 3 first-round picks to Brooklyn or OKC already. They're going to be, if they re-sign Harden, and then depending on what happens with Maxey, like he's probably going to get max or near max contracts. So like they're going to be
Maxey.
Right. So they're going to be in tax territory for the foreseeable future. So like they really need to hit on the few assets they do have. But you get him at 21, or like the Pelicans with Herb Jones at 35 last year. Like you hit on one of these late first round, early second round picks, and it really does change the trajectory of your franchise.